Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Production Tips. Oh my gosh, I almost said Production Trips, which, you know, whatever. Friday, February 18th, we're gonna look at some custom instruments from our friend Shepherd's and have some fun. So, broadcast is coming through. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. And before we completely start, we got a little bit of a techno theme going on here today. So I want to just draw your attention first to this new release on Thorium Records called Contrail from our friend 8 Neun, which is super fun. Let's get to the Contrail track. All right, because we got some kick drum work to do today from a kick drum instrument from Shepherd's and then some strange blippy synths. This is not going to be a production workshop on music theory at all. No bass lines, no melody, no chords. We're just doing sounds. And check out this release. It's out on Contrail, out on Thorium today. The release is called Contrail. It's super good. And Thorium has a couple other artists in their stable, not only 8 Neun, but also our friend Shepherd's. And he is the one who made these instruments that I'm going to share with you today. Now, these are available in the Mixatexture Discord server. If you're part of the track feedback crew, you can go to the channel called Racks Presets Patches, and you'll find them in there. They're for Live 11.1. We're going to look at today a kick drum rack with some amazing plugins, especially the titles on the plugins are fun. We're going to look at this instrument rack, especially the randomize button. Now, I don't have time to go through all these parameters and everything that's modulatable, but there's some great stuff you can do to create really interesting sounds. And I'm just going to hit the random button. And what I want to do in this workshop today is show you the track that I made, which sounds like this. And we're just going to run through a couple of the sounds I created. Then we're going to look at the kick drum in detail and just talk about what plugins is he using and why, and where can you get the plugins. There's two VSTs for download that are free that Shepherd's used in the rack that are a lot of fun. And not only that, but also since I love the Mixatexture community so much, and I like to shout out people who are being creative and sharing stuff, we got some sound effects from Ben Hunt. And these are fun. You know, sound effects are something that are always unique and add a lot of flavor to your tracks. So let's start off by showing a few of the sound effects. This is the original of the atmosphere sound. Get my push over here lined up. And who's here? We got, oh, Alex B, Min, Shepherd's, Pipfit. What's going on? Really cool track. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was that first idea from the first day was like dragging super slow. So I sped it up a little bit and made the melody more bleepy. Here's the original Ben Hunt atmosphere sound, right? Just a background thing. And what I did to make it part of the track is I went like this. A little bit louder, low enough that it's kind of subconscious around the track. But when you mute the layer, it's like, oh, it's clearly gone, right? Right there, it's like, yeah, it's like raining outside and the window's closed, right? So my tip for atmospheric sounds is layer them in quietly, and to check the level in the mix, mute back and forth to get on and off, and see how it feels. And if you can feel it disappearing and coming back, then it's at the right level. Go full Z screen Zs. A couple other Ben Hunt sounds. This is the sweep. That's a lot of fun. Another sweep down. Another sweep down. So what I did with these, this one original sweep down was like this. And that's cool to trigger as a sound. What I like to do with these, super quick and dirty, bring it into the timeline, select 16 bars and consolidate. And then you'll get a 16-bar loop with a sweep in the middle. So every 8 bars, we get this thing coming across as like a transition. So I can have that 16-bar loop basically running the whole time through my track. Every 8 bars, we're going to get a transition sound, and then I can drop in a new, on another channel, new hi-hat, new ride cymbal, cut the kick out, put the kick back in, whatever you want to do. It's like you get a marker where, so if you're playing live and you have a 16-bar loop like this with a riser thing in the middle, every time you hear the riser, it's like, oh, wake up, do something. And then you can tweak something and make it come back. So that's just like a super quick production tip on how to, you know, get some development in your tracks so you don't have to like mentally think, oh, I counted 8 bars. Now I'm going to press the button to fire off that riser, and maybe the button's on a different pad. You can't get the mouse there, or it's not at your fingertips. So it's sort of like automating your risers to put them in place while you're composing in session view so you don't have to just do it one by one. Another one, Sound Effects 7. What's this all about? Okay. That's going to be a transition riser, right? So here we are on the track. Something along these lines. It's a low growly sound that has an upwards rising pitch. So I figure, hey, that's a transition sound, that's a riser. Something I got from Ben to play with. Another one, original. And this channel is panned. Okay, so the original is like that. And what did I do with it? I reversed it. When I first heard that, I was like, dude, Ben, give me that sound. I want to reverse it, bring it into the track. And the loop has a little cut to it. So it comes in nice. Same thing with this other one. Kind of chirpy. Pew, 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 pew. And for the track. I like finding the micro rhythms. You know, I'm always commenting on this in tracks. So getting a sound that's like. It's not exact, it's not perfect, it's not quantized, it's not exactly on the beat, but that's what kind of makes it fun, is it's sort of drifting, and it's that one bar thing of no matter how weird it is, it's every bar, so you're gonna get into it, and there's little things for the beat to push and pull against. So that's a quick little blast of what I did with some sound effects to steal other people's ideas and mangle them and make them my own, or have fun with them. Let's put my broadcast level down here for now. Next up, Shepherds, the synth. This is a analog synth using the analog instrument and live. And what I did with it was I resampled a bunch of stuff. So let me play the sounds that I got from the resampling, and then we'll look at what the track is doing. Okay. And these just came up as presets when I hit the random button. This came out all by itself. I hit random, pressed the MIDI note, and got this. This is that bleeble blurble kind of thing, which you would create by having like a sample and hold filter, a sample and hold wave shape applied to a filter, and some other sounds like that. That sound right there could be a whole foundation for another track all by itself. This was an accident where I accidentally resampled the master channel, and I accidentally sampled it, and I was like, oh, that was dumb. And then I said, wait a minute. No, I want to use that in a track. So I put that in as a transition sound right around 30 seconds in here. Test mix. Just like that. Super cool. And you notice that was a little bit louder than the one before. Shepherds, did I use any plugins on Ben's sounds? I bet you I probably did. Not on that channel. I didn't really go too crazy with it. So bandpass filter on that swoop kind of thing. Okay, I got to keep one hand on my master broadcast. That's why I'm using the mouse. So this one I mostly just did with reversing and looping. Pretty minor, right? Next channel, same kind of a thing. Just basic filtering. That would be like the muddy kind of stuff that I removed. And I think I played around with that filter and turned it off. Little compression, little limiter. I really didn't go too wild. It's basic mix tools, a little bit of EQ, compression kind of things to get them louder, chop them up. Pablo Picasso, stealing, borrowing, making sounds. So what was I doing? I was showing you some sounds that I resampled. Here's a fun one that came from the Shepherds instrument. And it's a little bit brittle like that. And this one was pretty special. So what happened here? You're hearing it from the Wubs channel. I'm routing that through something else. So let's go to the dry sound. It was making this really weird pulse. almost sounds like a sound pitched down too low. And I felt wub, 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 wub. And I wanted to work with it. So first I put it like this and tried playing that in the track with the kick drum. It didn't work at all. But it was still so cool. I wanted to use it. So I took a layer, and here's where I get into some plugins. And I took the output of track 9 of just the wub thing, turned down that volume, and got this wiki thing going on. So there's LFOs mapped to the frequency and the output gain. So frequency's moving on the filter, compression, output gain's moving. Filter over there to gut out the low end and keep kind of focus on the mid-range of it. And then all about that pedal. And the way that works, get ready. Right there, those two sounds together. You get that thing of like little voices inside the track, like kind of and just with these two sounds, kick drum buzzing, waka 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 kind of thing, it's ready to layer in some hi-hats and become a track of massive power. The last thing is, I'm feeling silly today. Oh shit, don't change that. The bleep group. I resampled one of the sounds that became such a thing that I made it into the whole melody of the track. And that was this whole thing. And I tried stacking it up in a couple of different ways. That was my first idea. And it was a little slow and a little weird. So I played with it and got it to be doing something I liked. With these are the MIDI notes doing the chromatic thing. And I copied it to a couple drum rack samples. So to get the pitch, you know, this was like a creative thing. I kind of had a melody in my mind by hearing something that I accidentally did when I was tuning the sample. And it was annoying to try and think, how do I make an instrument with MIDI notes that are going to reflect keyboard pitch to the sample? Because sometimes, like, you know, sampler instruments, they got to be in tune. And you got to have your MIDI notes on your keyboard going out to, like, something that is a pitch or a control voltage to an analog synth or whatever. I didn't want to go through all that. So I was like, I'm just going to copy the sample, down pitch one of them, and have different MIDI notes triggering different samples, like as if it's a sampler with drum pads, like this. Rough and dirty, but this is the sound we get. And I used the arpeggiator to get the fastness on it. So we're getting little hypnotic melodies and everything. So that's enough about what I did. I want to show you what you can do with this instrument if you dare. And one fun thing I kind of remembered in this workshop is that you can map the random button to a keyboard key. So I'm going to press the letter R and start getting, maybe take my octave down. Wow. What I like about this instrument is you can hold down the note and it keeps going. This thing is crazy. I don't think it ever repeats. Like, this is basically why I started resampling, is because I started hearing sounds and I'm like, I don't know if I could ever get that sound back. What the hell is that one doing? Bonk. Ah, swell. And if you do find a sound that you like, what you can do is make a little preset from it. So take a snapshot with this one and rename it. Call it Snap 1. So that way, away from that sound, come back. That's my song for today. Hit some random some more. Bing, 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 bing. And this is kind of new for Live 11 that you can save variations of sounds. Where was my cool one? Oh, it's back here. So you can save the variations if you like the one you have, but you have to think, I'm going to save it because there's no like undo or repeat to get back to it. Randomness in live is something I haven't explored yet. Came out with 11, big potential. Yeah. And of course, another really cool thing is that you can actually create as many macro knobs as you want and map them to all kinds of fun stuff. So what I would recommend with this one is go to the Mix Detector Discord server, download the synth patch from Shepherds, and then start randomizing, get some sounds you like, save them into your snapshots, and then once you have a snapshot, then you can get into your own filter tweaks and settings and things like that. So how are we doing? 12:15, cool. Alex B still on 10. Yeah, you can make so much amazing music with even 9 still, or 10. So these are not required things. But what I like is just the creativity that I get from playing with this synth. And look, it's just the analog instrument and a limiter. All those sounds we heard came from just these variations. And I guess if you wanted to dig into it, what are we changing? We're changing octaves. We're changing wave shapes. Filter settings are mapped, changing LFO settings. Oscillator 2 is going through wave shapes and octaves. So pretty much the most dramatic thing you're going to get if you want to create a sound from scratch, pick the waveform, pick the octave, and then get into your filter, ADSR envelope modulators, and output and stuff. Of course, portamento glide is always a big one to really mess up your music theory. So that's going to be enough for that. Let me know if you have any questions. Extra macro knobs. You can get around that from having nested racks, though. So you can get 16 macro knobs side by side. It's just not going to be in the same rack. I don't know if that makes a big difference. But what I really liked the most was this kick drum rack was fierce. So let's go through it from the beginning and check out Shepard's titles, right? It was too loud. Have you ever used this thing? VARIMOON, we're going to get that plugin free. Give it some punch. It was still too loud. Just a bit of this. There's a distortion rack. There's the low end or love end. Shaping the evil frequencies. Some gain staging, nice to see. Give that sign some beef. Let's get this thing started. And I did actually organize a little bit of a way to talk about this. So, first of all, I mapped a knob to bypass everything. We're just going to hear the basic analog instrument. Can you guys even hear that? It's got a low end. There's an attack portion. There's a drone that's kind of quiet, and there's like a flick on the front. It's like, it almost sounds like that, like a flick on top. So now let me turn all these on, and no, I'm going to turn them all off and go by one by one. So basic analog synth, not doing a whole lot. Give it some beef, first of all. So the saturator is coming in to get it a bit louder. Next, some gain staging to lower the levels down. And you probably have heard me say this 99.5 million times. We're doing these one by one. What is gain staging all about, and how do you know if you're even doing it? Well, the super quick answer is use these little green level meters in between your devices to just keep an eye on where your levels are. So right here, after we did the saturator boost, you can see it's clipping up a little bit into the red. That's not a clip that you're going to hear. It's not wrong, but it is internal clipping. And if you have it totally jacked in the red all the time, it's essentially like having no meter at all. You can't tell where the sound is. And you can always get the sound you want and keep it in the green by doing gain staging. So when you combine that across every sound on every channel and every group all the way to your final master mix, you have to be able to do that so that when you're at the master channel and you want a little more of some sound, or there's another too much of one sound, you have to be able to figure out, where is that sound coming from? How do I fix it? And these meters tell you where the sound is coming from and how you fix it. So that's why I say use the meters, kick in the gain staging. Now you can see, or kick in the utility plugin titled gain staging. Now you can see the meter came down a little bit. So Shepherds is on the measurement scene. Paul Robinson, how you feeling? We were dropping some emojis last night. I turned into emoji boy. Transient. This is the drum bus plugin. I dig how Shepard's titled them with what they're doing. And transients is a knob that can change like the feel of the sound. And what I did with this rack was I went in and mapped the controls that I thought were the most useful for just showing it. That might not be super obvious in YouTube land, but the transient knob in drum rack is great with like a drum loop. It's almost like you can like remove the background reverb or make it louder. If it squashes the transient, it's like everything else after it is going to be louder. Or if you accentuate the transient, make it bigger, it's like having kind of an expander that lowers the level of the other sounds. So the transient is getting a bit of that click kind of a feel coming back in. Now, EQ8, shaping the evil frequencies. There's dry, exaggerated. What are the evil frequencies according to Shepard's? 297 and 160. Those are sounds you hear all the time. We're talking about that in the low mids, the muddy area, the boxy wooden kind of hollow like kook kook kook. It's just an EQ to take those out, and then on top we have band 8. Getting some of the crunch out of there. So fun with that. Here we go, LOVEND. This plugin is heavy. Get ready for this, watch out. I'm gonna kick it in. Now watch what happened to our peak meter in between, or our level meter in between. Bypassed. I'm turning up the broadcast level to get this nice and loud. Now I'm gonna turn down my broadcast and kick this plugin in. And there we go. And while we're zoning out on this drone, let me just hop over here. There is a Patreon page for LOVEND, and this link is in the video notes. You can grab this plugin for free, or you can become a patron on their page. I just downloaded it, installed it, set it up. And what's cool is that it lets you pick the frequency you're boosting. And we're at 78 hertz right here. So that's kind of fun, a little fun one. I suppose you could create that in live with some other device. Yeah, it is totally fat. I didn't go through all the work to rebuild it, to rebuild the plugin. I thought like maybe I'll make an all Ableton stock native version of this sound, and then I thought, nope, I'm not gonna do that. Now, here we go. We've got a distortion rack. For anybody who's not totally into effects racks in live, they can be just a little bit confusing if you don't know what you're looking at. Like, let's say you see this, okay? And I turn this off, and I see there's plugins after it, and I don't know what's happening in this rack. Well, what you want to do is expand the chains to see what's going on in there, and expand the devices to see how those chains are working, okay? So now, to decipher what's happening, this distortion chains audio effect rack is 3 parallel effects. So that's like having, 3 things at the same time, 3 copies, and you can do different stuff, and they're all going to combine back again at the end. If you turn off all the activator switches, you don't hear anything. So here we are first with the dry sound. Fuzz 1. Check it out. I love distortion. You named it. But I cannot use all of it. Alex, no, this is for 11.1. It only works on the newest version. So if you're super into it, maybe we could deconstruct it and make a version in Live 10. I could sort of open Live 10 and try to like copy all the amount of plugins and get the sound and everything. It wouldn't be the same, but maybe if you go through the video and you look at every plugin we drop, recreate it with the plugins you have, I'm sure you could get some sound that works. So maybe what we could do is export just the analog instrument as the beginning setting, and then you could take that, drop it into an instrument rack, and start adding plugins and see if we can rebuild it. Maybe we could do a whole other workshop on how to build this kick in Live 10, starting with the analog instrument. Could be fun, depending on what people want. I don't know. Yeah, whereas Ian Waters is going to be into this. So there's a Fuzz 1 layer, back to the instrument rack. Fuzz 2, my favorite stock distortion, getting all of Shepard's secrets. So what's he doing here? He's got a distortion layer with the bass cut. That's me turning this up. And removing the low end from this one layer. Doesn't that just make you happy? And here comes the dry signal. Whoa, that's freaking huge. And the dry is just another chain with no audio effects on it, just so we got that straight. You're asking, Alex B, you're asking just that one plugin? Is that plugin for all versions of Live? Do you mean 32-bit and 64-bit? There's your formats, VST3, audio units, improved DSP. You can check the link yourself and see what happens. So there we go. The distortion chains give you basically this dry signal with 2 layers of buzz on top, and it doesn't mess up the dry signal. So if you want to like add something and not like totally wreck what you're already doing, you can make parallel processing with chains. Let me just show you. I don't know if people really want to see this, but I like showing this kind of stuff. So let's say I want to make some parallel processing. I got a reverb and a vocoder, whatever. What I'm going to do is select, do Command G or group, and that creates the audio effect rack with 2 devices in it. Now we can open the chains and see there's one chain that has an on-off switch with both those 2 effects. Now I could go and create another chain and just call this one dry, rename effects, and that way there's our dry chain. There's nothing. There's whatever's happening in there. And you can pick them, you can blend them, you could take it to wherever you want to go. So that is the quick and dirty on how you make an effects rack. And the reason why you want to do that is when you're making a sound, you're listening to the sound, you have a feeling like, oh, I wish this had a flanger on it, but I don't want to make it all flanger, and the flanger knob, the wet dry blend isn't getting me where I want to go. Maybe don't drop the flanger at the end of the chain of everything. Make an effect rack with 2 chains. So one is dry, passing through exactly with the original sound you want. Layer 2 can be your flanger at 100% wet, and then you can mix the balance, you know, like mix the volume inside the chains to get it where you want to be. It's kind of like having an effect on an aux return track, except it's inside the unit, and you can do a bunch of them, and it's great for parallel processing. Video link. All right, you guys are doing, I don't know what you're talking about. Back to the kick drum. So that's the distortion chains. I dig how that happened. Now, just a little bit of compression. This is kind of interesting. Shepard's opened up the sidechain filter. Well, it's not sidechain compression. He opened up the input filter and used the high-pass filter so that only the sounds above 250 hertz are triggering the compressor. That's like if you have a hardware compressor and the kick drum is going into it, but you EQ the signal before it goes into the compressor to change how the threshold and everything relates or responds. Let's just turn this off and see if we can hear it. Right there you can see the gain reduction's pinned, right? Okay, so now if you're only having the compressor react to the upper frequencies, you can see we get a pulse. So we're getting a rhythmic vibe. There it is. There's not a rhythmic swell because it's reacting. The kick drum's just like mashing out the compressor input. So this is kind of cool. The title says just a bit. To me, this says just a bit of gain reduction, but really what it's doing is adding rhythm. This is where volume and frequency are combining to make a rhythmic effect through the compressor. Super cool. Oh, it was just too loud. Check it out, guys, on time with the gain staging. Taking it down -6. It's still jacked in the meters, but they're showing some awareness that it's jacked. Now, speaking of Corpus, this is like a resonator. Look how buttery that just got. And this is where it gets into like, I like them both. I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think? Do you like the Corpus better or not? And this is another one I napped out of there. You can dial that in. Just to be nice. Get the kind of flavor you want. What do we got next up? VARIMOON. This is a link is in the show notes on YouTube. Free download, sign up, become a patron. variable mu compressor. That's super cool. We're not going to go too deep into how it works or what the analog device is doing. The point here is that, again, we're getting rhythm through the release time, okay? So I mapped the release time onto this rack. I want something else. I don't know what to do. What do I do next? Well, the answer to that question is going to be something like changing the frequency balance to get more of the tone, or changing the attack time and the transient, so like the micro timing on the front end of the thing, or possibly the feel, like almost like the BPM of the sample itself or the sound, which always relates to release time on compression. So with a faster release time, it's more like thump, thump. And if the release time's too slow, you don't really get the pulse. The gain reduction gets clamps down and doesn't let go, so it's more like it stays there. There's a kind of an auto setting, but I like it on this number 3, which is like a 2-second. Oh, the VARIMOON also has a high pass filter on it. I didn't catch it. Oh yeah, over there. Super cool. So without going too much deeper into that, the function is it's creating rhythm through the release time. And the high pass filter is like telling the compressor or the limiter to only react to the upper frequencies. So that bass drone that we hear that's like, that low bass is a constant sound. So if we're asking the limiter to react to the low frequencies, it's going to have constant gain reduction, and you're not going to get that pulsing thing. So now we're having it react to the buzz on top, getting this nice grimy grunge, emulating a Fairchild 670. Look that up on eBay, everybody. And check it out. Our levels are still are now they're back in place in the green. Let's see, what else did Shepard? Have you ever used this thing? So he drops a tuner on there, rocking an A flat with a little pitch drift. Oh, that's not on my voice. Duh. I was trying to sing into the tuner. So a tuner, I don't know if I'm saying totally obvious things, but for anybody who's new at this stuff, the reason you want to use a tuner is because the kick drum is really low. If you're trying to layer in a bass sound or some upper frequency things or some melodies, it can be really hard to play a MIDI keyboard with a synth and find the right pitch, especially with a little drift right there. So a tuner allows you to just see what note you're coming through with, which can help you with your EQing, it can help you with your layering sounds, and just help you get your whole mix fit together. People talk about this a lot with, you know, how do you tune your sub bass and your kick drum? Should they be a perfect fifth apart or be on the same note? That's how you answer that question. So you can have like waveforms that are literally not fighting against each other. Instead, they're harmonically interlocking like a zipper. Oh, but you know what? It was too loud, so utility 3, third place. Shepard's wanted an extra little volume control to grab a hold of that sound, because now he's smacking it up into a limiter again to get a little bit of the front end off. And here's our finished sound. So back to the beginning, I'm going to turn off everything. Without touching the broadcast level, that's where we started. Sounds like an accident. Sounds like this. It's like when somebody hits the mic and it's like, you can see what I mean. That low drone note right there at the G sharp, like, that's a constant sound. So if you have that constant thing going into your compressors, you're going to have a constant gain reduction. But if you look at the frequencies up at 250, where the mouse is, that's a lot of bounce, which means your compressor, if your compressor is set to react to like that frequency and above, the level coming in is bouncing, which means the gain reduction is bouncing, which means the output is going to have the whole output bouncing. Like if you have an input filter on your compressor, the output is still generating the low frequencies. You're not filtering the output, you're only controlling what's going in. So it makes the low end have that pulse as triggered by the mid-range. Ah, shit, I froze. I'm still live on my broadcast stream and my monitor stream, so I can listen to drums all day and wait for you guys. You're back. All right. Good. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Type in something if I was cut off in the middle and you want me to finish what I was saying. Let me know when to go back to. Rewind. So cool. I think I went through what I wanted to say about the Shepherd's Rack, right? Going back to the beginning. Froze 2 times. It is chilly out here. Ah ha ha. No sound. One, I forgot to say this at the very beginning. In the analog instrument, what are the 2 opening layers? One is a sine wave, detuned down 2 octaves, or shifted down 2 octaves. The other one is a click with that sample and hold wave up in the high frequency. So we started out, the opening 2 sounds we're going to work with are a low sub thing and a high frequency thing. Are we on? Guess it's time for me to wait. And my broadcast is still saying 38 minutes continuous. So sorry about that. I don't know where this glitch situation is coming from. Yeah, we're on. All right, cool. Let me close this up. Goes out of the way. So to rewind, we looked at the analog instrument, the oscillator 1 and 2 with a sine layer and then a crispy high end. We had a saturator for some beef, adding heaviness. Utility 1, gain staging. We talked about where to read the meters and why. Transients, what they do, how to play with it. EQing the evil frequencies at 160 and 270. 160 and 297. Knew I had a 7 in there. Then the LOVEND plugin, distortion chains. We looked at how to make a new chain with a multi-plugin processing on parallel processing. Glue compressor a little bit. That's really interesting, using an input filter to make your compressor react to different frequency bands. I recommend playing with that for everybody, especially on your master channel. Set your, put a glue compressor on the master channel of your whole track. Set the EQ input to go up above 150 or 200, so your compressor is not pumping on the kick drum. It'll just react to what's in the whole main mix, and you can get kind of like a smoother compression instead of, right here we have extreme rhythmic compression. Woof, woof, woof. It's a lot of fun. Compressors, you can do so much with dynamics. Processing. Utility 2, it was too loud. Corpus for the resonator, VARIMOON tuner. Utility 2, and then limiter for the final one. So cool. I'm glad I made that through pretty quickly. I was afraid I was going to get super sucked into the whole kick drum world and spend forever on there. So since we have a minute and apparently I'm not glitching, let me know if you have any other questions about what you're hearing in this track. And I can take a second and answer. Oh, just a bit was ironically because it was not just a bit compressed. I didn't really know what you meant. I mean, you heard what I said about it. So. And that's, I think, my favorite sound. The Ben Hunt group. Those are going to be for later in the track, so let's not have those on all the time. Oh, this one. This is when I was identifying the melody. So actually, before I made that bleep thing, I went in and I was like, that bleep is too hard. I'm just going to make a sound that I want. So I made this. But it's not the same. It's all right. I'll keep it as a layer, I guess. But this one is it's more chirpy. It has the echo. It's got all this extra cool stuff on there. So I'll probably use those together. Smooth that down. And if you're curious about the beats, pretty simple. You know what? I think that's also That's something I resampled out of the synth instrument and found a little rhythm to play with. That kind of galloping thing. And one of my favorite tricks to do on beats like this is in the warp mode, set it to beats, pick transients, do it so the transient stops, not the reverse transient. And then take the transient slice length. The word for that is transient envelope. This is the one that everybody always wants to automate, and you can't automate it. But when you crank down that envelope, it's like having a noise gate. This is very similar to what we were doing in drum rack with the transient knob. Here is like less spike transient, and the volume of all the sustain portion is louder. And this is like all transient, and everything other than the transient is the volume is reduced. So this is a really fun. You can do this with any drum beat to remove a reverb, get it more spiky, clean it up so you have more space for other loops in between, especially your top loops. Like get your kick drum separate, take like a conga drum loop, boom, and do this thing with a transient envelope, and it just gets so much cleaner and tighter and more like crisp in the mix. Shepherds, what are you talking about? It can be automated through a workaround. All I know how to do is tweak it live and resample that. So there's the full. Yeah, this is a fun envelope to play with. And you could use it approaching a build-up. So that's a little fun production trick. And right away I hear a clap in there that needs a little... Nope. Apparently I forgot to work on that one. Yeah, Shepherds, if you can drop some tips on that. Audio effect track with more than one simpler and cross-fading the chains. Oh, so you set a whole bunch of chains with different transient settings. So here's an example where I could filter this in solo and be confused, or listen to the whole drum mix. See, okay, if I cut it all out and then start to bring it back down, where do I start to hear that snap clap? That sound might get replaced. Oh, and shout out to Martin Mindbetter. Another sound. It's only a closed hi-hat, but I love it so much that people share sounds and we get to play with them all. Then drum rack, tiny little bit of glue compressor on that one. And there you go. So audio effect rack with more than one simpler, cross-fading the chains, and then you map a knob to cross-fade chains and you get the effect of that. All right. So 12:45. Cool. I like to keep the production tips down to an hour or less so they're watchable and you can go through and replay it and pull out some production tips to play with. And I like this track a lot. It's a really simple, short loop, just a bunch of layers that I'm going to go through and build out a structure, which I did before. And then touch up the mix and bring in a track feedback, and we should be good. So tomorrow is track feedback at noon, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody watching right now knows that, but if you're watching on the replay, we're doing track feedback all the time. And the way to get into the track feedback crew is with Patreon. Here's my page, view your public page, where You can sign up for only $25 a month and get the most amazing track feedback on your music, where we help you with the sound design, the song structure, and the mix, as well as the whole entire inner world of being a creative producer, the self-doubt, the hesitations, the confidence, the not knowing if it sounds good for other people's speakers. You get help with all those problems to get your music done and be sure that it sounds good so you can shop it to some labels and get it released. Play it in your live sets, play it in your DJ sets, and be sure that what's coming out the speakers for your audience is going to sound good like the tracks you download and play, the professional tracks. Paul Robinson, over an hour, totally unwatchable. Yeah, I know what you mean. So this is where you sign up for the Track Feedback Crew. It gets you into genre-specific feedback channels, meaning we give you feedback from house producers, techno producers, people who make the same kind of music as you are going to comment on your tracks with timestamps, and we give you specific things to work on every week. I do that in our live streams, so you need to update a couple things, get it to the next version, and then it's going to be 99% done. Honestly, most of the tracks we have coming in are 75% ready, and they only just need one more little push. Like, imagine if you had a hard drive full of tracks, none of them are done, and you feel like an idiot because you're not publishing anything. Imagine if you could go to a meeting and find out that with one more night of a work session, 2 hours, whatever, 3 hours, one more session, you could take your track from 75% done all the way up to ready to publish or ready to get mastered. I mean, I don't want to promise the moon, but most of the tracks we hear can be finished with one more work session, one more round of feedback, and then possibly a mastering session or something like that. Geraldine is the name of your compressor? What are you guys talking about? So please join us in the Track Feedback Crew. We want to see you inside Discord, and there is not actually infinite space. We can only take so many people in order to do really good live streams, so don't wait on that. Here's the link again to the LOVEND plugin. Thank you, Shepherds. Thank you so much for sharing your rack, putting these plugins in here, and telling us how to make it. And then if you're interested in learning more about Ableton Live and learning by doing it inside guided session lessons, what a session lesson is all about, you can see in this workshop, I went through and built in session view little examples of what is happening with each device, why it matters, why are we using it, what do you hear? Well, when you download a session lesson from my online courses, you get an Ableton project with guidelines on the side and activities with each clip, tells you what to do. You actually do it in live and learn by doing it, which is light years beyond trying to reconstruct it from watching on YouTube. So we have these courses in here, basic mixing, all about that stuff with gain staging. You can learn how to make a good sounding mix by doing it inside live with guided activities. There's instructions in there. There's examples of what to do. There's automation that shows you what to do, and then you get to play with the tracks and do it. There's another link in the Track Feedback Crew. And we got a whole bunch of stuff on here. EQing, sound design with operator, how to escape the 8-bar loop, which everybody wants to know. And then a whole bunch of other really cool instruments to take you on a guided tour of, for example, making a mono sub bass. Just got to the end of that loop. You can see a little preview of what the session lesson is like in this screenshot. There's a device mapped with macro knobs, instructions on the right-hand side. You do the whole thing in session view. And the most important part is you're not watching YouTube sitting there looking at your phone. You're actually inside live, doing the lesson, learning activities. And then, of course, I want you to be sharing your mixes in the Track Feedback Crew. So let me save that. Shepard's taking care of the techno flock. Yeah, super fun. I'm happy for that you shared that. And hey, anybody else, if you're making tracks and you're in the mix texture group and you see this, share your presets. Save a preset, upload it into the preset section. Let us play with it and break it and see what we can do with it. And we'll have fun with that. I know DJ Waters put in some crazy distorted kicks that I didn't pull out yet, but I want to play with those. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Paul Robinson, I hope you drink some water and get yourself hydrated in your brain. Lots to play with later. Yeah, definitely, for sure. Hope it sparks some ideas. And that's going to be it for me for today. Let me get back to my broadcast window. And I'm going to take it out with that little mix right there. And please, go to Beatport, check out Thorium Records. They are putting out some really good dark techno, hard techno, peak time driving techno, really cool tracks. And Shepherds has a release coming up really soon where, if you like this style of kick drum, the drone, the buzz, the, what's the word, rumble techno kind of thing, this is where it's coming from. So now you know how to start making it on your own, and you can listen to some pro level tracks where you hear that sound. Get them on Beatport. Sign up, play them in a set. Alex B, Paul R, Herbal T, Midnight, yeah, everybody. Awesome. Cool, y'all. See you tomorrow for Track Feedback on Saturday. Watch out.